Uh-oh. My thingy's up. Bam. Alright, YongYea! Let's go. Here we go. Let's go!
Of another company when they spout this kind of nonsense. Steam, of course, is synonymous with PC gaming, given the fact that it has a huge market domination in that landscape, it being the primary storefront for digital PC titles. But it is not the only storefront. There's still competition in that space.
That's what's hilarious, is there's still tons of competition for Steam, and then these companies all decided, all these like companies are whining. They're a monopoly. No. No. It's called having a good product makes all your other crappy products look bad.
In the form of Epic Games Store, and then you've got individual publishers and studios kind of hosting their games in their own launch.
Really, the competition is GOG, and I guess if you have to include them, Epic Games Store. And I'm pretty sure there's one other one. I can't remember its name. It's like Fuel or something like that. It's an orange icon. I can't remember what it's called. But they have competition. It's just that they're so good. YouTube just broke. Do a flip. I can't do a flip. Lock on. Is YouTube good? Or is it the public one that went down? What we doing here? I just realized I had both of the little things up and I turned off one, and I may have turned off the wrong one.
And whatnot. There's itch.io, there's GOG, you name it. Blizzard has their own battle.net launcher. So it is not as if Steam is the only digital PC platform. But if you speak to C-suite executives, they'll have you believe that Steam is engaged.
72 of Deads believe Steam has a monopoly on PC. No. No, it doesn't. It accounts for 75% of overall revenue because you guys won't work with GOG and other companies. You're the reason it's a monopoly. If anything. If anything, you are the reason they're a monopoly because you won't work with the other people. The only reason you work with Steam is it allows you to have your anti-cheats and stuff. And your DRMs. Because it knows if it didn't, you wouldn't work with them. It's a catch-22. You're the reason it's a monopoly. If it is one. And Steam's not gonna... No other company's gonna change. Like, GOG's entire premise is no DRM. Epic Games sucks because it's not a real storefront. Hi, Alan. And then, like, you are the reason.
Engaging in unreasonable competition practices, stating that Steam practically has a monopoly when that is far from the case. So right here we have gamesindustry.biz reporting on this research that was conducted by PC distribution platform Rocky. The research is titled The State of PC Game Distribution. Through this research, they surveyed around 306 industry executives across...
Oh, it wasn't even devs. It was executives. Of course the executives would be complaining. Because they can't do some of their more scummy ideas because Steam is there. And Steam was like, hey, no ads in games? No, we're not allowing it.
Across the UK and US between May 18th and May 22nd, 2025. And most of the responders were...
And what's hilarious is Xbox Gaming Store is trying to be included, yet it's already dead. Like, it killed itself almost immediately on its highest, like, It went like way up on the little graph, and then it went, oh, let's double the price and add all these crappy ideas. Choo!
Executives at the highest level. 75% of respondents were senior managers of C-suite level. C-suite meaning basically any title with like a C at the beginning, CEO, CFO, COO, so on and so forth. And
of course they would. Of course they would, because you can't. A lot of the things you want to monetize, Steam doesn't allow. And it also is the only one making rules that favor the customer. And that is why they don't like them.
77% of responders were folks managing a studio or company with 50 employees or more. So you can bet that some of the top video game publishers executives that you know of have all come out and participated in this survey on some level. And what they've admitted is that when it comes to the games that they launch on PC, 75% of that revenue does come from Steam, though they do release their games on other storefronts like Epic Game Store and the Xbox PC Game Store as well.
The reason it's 75% on Steam is because everyone uses Steam, because it's a good platform. The only time you're ever going to see Epic Game Store sell your game is when it's free. And no one's using the Xbox PC's Game Store anymore. That's smart.
With roughly half of those surveyed, around 48%, having distributed a title to both of those stores. Now, if you look at GOG and itch.io, those percentages are significantly lower, and for good reason. GOG distributes DRM-free titles.
Exactly. The only real competition to Steam is GOG. If you went DRM free and put your games on GOG, GOG would blow up. If all the companies suddenly just stopped using DRM and put launchers and let you have the game entirely, GOG would blow up. Because people would flock to it.
Where you can download the digital game and keep it and distribute it however you want. And that accounts for 10% of the surveyed respondents who have used GOG as a storefront where they launch their games. A lot of companies want their games to have DRM. They want to exert as much control over the digital titles that they release as possible. And then finally, you've got itch.io, which accounts for 8% of respondents who have used that platform.
Itch is kind of more of an indie platform than it is a big company platform. It is crowdfunding for indies and stuff like that. And like to let you demo an indie game and see if you really like it and do you want to support it kind of game.
IO being a platform that is more focused on independent development, indie developers. But yeah, their logic is that because Steam accounts for so much of their revenue and PC gaming is so dependent on Steam as a platform and a launcher, more than half of the developers feel that they rely too heavily on Steam to distribute their games.
They have to. The only competitive storefront is Steam, and they let them have DRM. Again, if you didn't put DRM, you could go on GOG, and you'd probably get a lot more from GOG. Because you'd be surprised how many people are on that platform. I still need to talk to my mom again, because, like, she really doesn't want to deal with Amazon, and I told her I will deal with them. So I can have my Amazon connected fully back.
With 72% believing the platform has a monopoly on the PC games market. Except having a significant market share isn't how you define a company having a monopoly on a certain type of service. This is such a ridiculous claim that the research and the responders, a lot of them being C-suite executives, have come under fire and mockery.
As they should.
Because it feels like they're using the most extreme words to describe Steam to exaggerate what is basically market dominance, but not market monopoly. It just feels like...
It's not a monopoly. It's just that they dominate the market. Partially because you don't want to have DRM off your...
The C-suite wished they had what Steam had, and so they're trying to throw shade at Steam and accusing Steam of something that they're not, to try to make Steam look bad for doing a good job at the thing that they've become masters of. Which is why,
And as a tale as old as time, Steam did nothing and won.
if you look at responses to folks reporting on this whole situation, where the research showed that a lot of C-suite management folks, a lot of executives believe that Steam effectively has a monopoly. You know, you've got responses.
Does nothing. Competition just keeps shooting themselves in the foot. What is this business strategy called? It's called the Gabe effect. Microsoft didn't realize it created a demon. An unholy, powerful demon. Little did you know, Gabe used to work at Microsoft and got tired of everything. And he was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna create my own thing.
Like this image of Gabe Newell accompanied by the following text: does nothing, competition just keeps shooting themselves in the foot. What is this business strategy called? Here's another response with, is this a butterfly meme, except it's game devs asking if this is a monopoly, when what they're really looking at is just a superior product that a lot of people prefer to use over the existing competition. And here's one more response that went viral, garnering 1.6 million views and almost 80,000 likes, that quote tweets this report, and I mean puts it best, saying that there's a difference between a monopoly and just literally having a better product than everyone else.
Exactly. Like, you make a good product, you get all the attention and stuff. And all these companies are mad because they want to make a product that makes them tons of money really fast, where Steam took the long road. Made a really good product. It just kept it good. They made a few games to get people interested in Steam. Now they don't even make games anymore because the storefront's that good that it runs itself almost.
That people prefer to use. And it's not just the community that's chiming in, but also professionals in this space who are saying things like, in other words, 72% don't know what a monopoly is. This is from Matt Piscatella, who is an analyst in the games industry, who often talks about game sales and hardware sales and platform sales and
Exactly.
whatnot. He kind of described it best, stating, quote, market share isn't what defines a monopoly, folks. A monopoly is where there's a single seller for a
Yeah, they
particular...
did make that new MOBA. Okay, I'll scratch that. They still do make games. It's just like random, and you never know when it's gonna happen.
service or good with no substitutes and the ability to charge excessively high rates because of this. Anyone can launch a PC distribution.
I can't open X on. I can't open my X. I can't open my Twitter. Why are you calling it X? I'll call it Twitter. I can't open my Twitter on stream because a lot of my friends are a bit more horny than I am.
Service, and there have been a lot of them. I mean, words mean things. Anyway.
Then I got like a Smugalana on my feed a lot, and I got Aoi, Yoi. I mean, how do you say her name again? Yoi? And then I got like a couple other people that are a bit down bad.
This is the kind of dumb gaming debate that happens every few years I can get behind. The important thing to remember is that even if Steam encompasses the majority of the PC gaming landscape as far as digital PC game sales are concerned, they still do have competition. In the same way that a lot of people prefer to use Google as a search engine, but that doesn't mean...
A lot of people stopped using Google because it's just gotten bad because of its AI thing. I use DuckDuckGo because DuckDuckGo is the old Google algorithm. It just goes straight to like what you're searching for. It gives you the option. It's like, hey, if you want are you gonna sleep on my hoodie? You're gonna sleep on my hoodie. Okay. Puppy's like left her bed and started sleeping on my hoodie. What was I saying? Yeah, DuckDuckGo is the old Google algorithm, I believe. It just gives you the option. It has a little button that says, it has near the top, it has a little generate the AI. Like the AI will go and search for you right there and then at the top if you want it to. Or like it'll give you a defined answer if you want it to. But it doesn't like get in the way of the actual search results. And they don't use the AI search results. Which I appreciate. That's why I use DuckDuckGo.
That Google has a monopoly because there's still a lot of other search engines out there that Google is still technically competing with, even if Google encompasses the vast majority of search engine usage. Because Steam does have competition, that kind of helps keep them in check, because if Steam suddenly starts doing nefarious things like increasing prices or making their service worse for the sake of corporate agendas, then there is a chance that Steam will lose that audience base and they will have other options that they can shift to if Steam decides to do something stupid or anti-consumer for the sake of profits and whatnot. Because those substitutes exist, Steam isn't allowed to charge excessively high rates due to the fact that if they do, there will be alternatives that people will gravitate towards. So no way, shape, or form does Steam actually have a monopoly, and other companies are allowed to compete in this space by releasing their own PC storefronts like Epic did with Epic Game Store, except they didn't launch with a bang. You know, what they advertised initially seemed like a really good proposition, like really good competition for Steam. And in fact, people want competition because it helps keep all the involved parties in check and it encourages them to one-up each other, and so everyone wins. But Epic Game Store's execution of their storefront and their digital PC gaming platform just wasn't something that enticed people away from Steam. But Epic did try, and the fact that they can try and are still trying means that competition exists. You know, they're
competition exists. They don't have a monopoly again.
Trying to offer better rates for developers when it comes to the split between the platform hold.
That is literally the only benefit to Epic, is it offers a way better split. Is like, that is like literally the only reason they can compete, basically. Is they have a better split. The reason no one likes Epic, though, is they started out basically being using monopolistic tactics. Like buying up all the competition and like making it where Steam didn't get a lot of new games because the big games that they were going to get got bought away from them. And everyone got pissed off because they're like, wait, this is supposed to be on Steam. And that created animosity. And that is why it has such a like negative following.
And the people publishing on that platform, they're trying to offer deals like
the real competition for Steam is GOG. And that is because they offer anti-DRM. Like they don't put DRM on any of their games. I think they did one time and everyone got mad. And so they like... And I think that was because that company wanted DRM that badly. They're like, I guess we can maybe do it. And then everyone was like, no. And they're like, okay, no.
free games, so on and so forth. So that is competition by definition. Steam just happens to be in a dominant position because they're dominating when it comes to the features and when it comes to the...
And like, people forget, Steam started out as like a bare bones store. Like barely anything. But they kept adding features people wanted. They kept updating. They kept being customer first. They kept doing the things the customers wanted. And now it's like the golden palace it is. And that's why very few people can compete.
Platform environment that they have fostered here, a lot of people would agree that there's just no better option right now than Steam. But at the same time, there's a non-zero chance that a competitor could come and outdo Steam.
I would say yes. Non-zero chance. The only company I think that has even that non-zero chance is GOG. If like all the companies together suddenly just stop using DRM, which they never will do, then GOG will like destroy Steam. and it'll become like 50% of the market share. It will instantly become half the market share.
At their own game, and they might start to gain market dominance. That is what competition is all about. That's what encourages companies to not get complacent and actually release good products, because that's what's going to be the thing that's going to define whether the masses gravitate towards your product over others. Even developers have chimed in at how ridiculous this notion is that Steam has a monopoly on the part of executives, with this Baldur's Gate 3 developer coming in and saying it's almost as if it isn't providing a shit service defined by public shareholder KPIs, referring to Steam as it just being a better product, a better PC launcher and storefront compared to the competition. The majority of responders for the survey was C-suite executives, but I guarantee you, if they were to survey the rest of the games industry, developers and journalists and pundits and the gaming community,
if they asked anyone else besides executives at game companies, they would get the opposite result. They'd say, oh, Steam's really great. That's what's hilarious.
As a whole, you'd find that the data likely skews towards most people not finding Steam to truly be a monopoly, because it is by definition not. But yeah, the Baldur's Gate 3 developers take has been quoted, and that has gone viral as well. There's a near universal agreement that Steam is not a monopoly. They're just really good at what they do, and a large part of that has to do with the fact that Steam is the oldest digital PC platform and storefront, and so
it's most of the oldest. Like I said, it started out as bare bones.
Years to refine and to ensure that it is the best service possible, but that doesn't mean, again, that competition doesn't exist and that competition can't catch up or even surpass Steam. That possibility is there. There has to be a commitment to do that. It's not easy to supplant a company that is dominating the market, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. So yeah, I think C-suite executives should spend less time complaining about other services being better than their own and actually work on making a better service that has the potential to pull people away from Steam. That just hasn't happened so far. And those C-suite executives know that if they were in the same position as Steam, where they were the market dominant in this space, and they had the privilege of being in that position, they would not be complaining. They would not call themselves a monopoly. They would deny those claims outright, because it's just the truth. All the C-suite executives are showing here is that they are jealous of Steam and wished they were in the same dominant position as Steam, but they're not. And if you want to get there, just do better. That's all there is to it. Welcome to competition. But that's my take. I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on what this research had to say and what responders and C-suite executives who were surveyed had to say about Steam in the comments below. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on YongYea.
YongYea!
I'll see you guys next time. YongYea.
Bah! Everyone's gonna love this one, guys. This one's fun.
What you're about to hear is pretty much what we all would dream of a big gaming CEO saying.
Time for confession from a big company.
MTX has slowly eroded the integrity of RuneScape.
Now, those are the words of Jagex CEO John Bellamy, and he admits that their monetization was actually killing the game, that players were leaving because of it, and that revenue was dropping because of that. So Jagex have done something largely unprecedented for the industry at large, but actually fairly normal for them, and fairly smart. They put it to a vote. They let 100,000 players decide the entire future of their monetization model with a single vote, albeit one that was slightly rigged, but not necessarily in a dastardly way. And what those players chose will change RuneScape forever. Back in July, RuneScape's leadership admitted something shocking. Quote, "We have lost players to the way we approach microtransactions." Basically, people were sick of feeling nickeled and dimed, and Jagex own data actually proved players were quitting over this. The January subscription survey that happened then scared everyone. The idea of $350 Canadian annual subscriptions was fairly spooky, because there was context that nobody could ignore. Jagex had just sold for $1.1 billion to a new group of venture capital firms. That was double their previous sale price. The CEO got replaced, some odd things happened, Pride content was cancelled, there were layoffs, projects were paused, and people kind of thought, oh dear, will there be the usual in-shitification? And when the 2024 financials came out, those painted a dire picture of their first revenue drop in years. But not just that, it was also their first profit drop in years. And the reason was that subscription revenue was falling. And one thing became
because people didn't want to deal with the new stuff. The new microtransactions and the new subscription model were all bad. And they were like, nope, not doing it.
obvious to everyone, including Jagex. They simply could not continue like this. Now, you may remember those AI regulation battles we've been tracking on the channel. Well, when tech is meeting copyright law and all the different outlets are spinning these stories differently, it can be a nightmare where you can only be seeing part of the story. And that's where Ground News comes in. They're today's sponsor, they're awesome, and take a look at this. It's Udio's settlement with Universal Music. We see that 57 sources covered it, but only 12% right-leaning coverage. So you're missing how this plays politically, and if you are more biased towards right-leaning sources, you're probably missing the story entirely. And the headline split reveals everything. Breitbart, who are right-leaning with mixed factuality, announces Universal Music and AI song generator Udio settle lawsuit, announce partnership, which is quite the contrast to AP News, who are rated very high factuality and lead with the impact, saying AI song generator Udio offers brief window for downloads after Universal settlement upsets users. So you can see the difference there. One of them is just talking about a partnership, but the other one is upset users following a settlement. So same story, but different focuses. And this is exactly why I check Ground News daily and I use it as my own newsfeed. You get the factuality ratings from 3 independent agencies. You get to see the political bias, the ownership structures of the news organizations, and the factuality ratings from 3 independent agencies. And that means you're not seeing spin. You're actually getting a reliable view of the news. And beyond their regional homepages, you can set up the likes of, say, their tech page that will go and capture everything from the copyright battles to the regulation threats, all with bias context. So just go to ground.news/Bellular. That's where you'll get 40% off unlimited access with the Vantage plan. That is the best deal you'll get, and that is the plan that I use. Dire times often require bold action, and that's actually what they did. They announced something radical, a series of live experiments to test new monetization models for RuneScape. Back in July, they shared some research on this, where 42% of active players said that microtransactions ruined the experience. 60% of lapsed players blamed microtransactions for leaving, and 63% said they'd actually return if the microtransactions were fixed. That's huge, as were a lot of the solutions. They tested a lot of things live in the game, like removing the loot box systems, having cosmetic-free worlds, having different purchase models, and ultimately the data had proven one thing quite clearly, that the old model was absolutely dead. Following the experimentation, Jagex unveiled their master plan to let people vote on the future. The vote page, though, had one option. That option was remove treasure hunter, you decide. And on the page, there was one button that said vote yes. That's it. There was no vote no option. There was no way to oppose the changes. Of course, the changes were something everyone wanted, and I don't think anyone would be voting no to removing a lot of the bullshit. But it wasn't a blind vote. Jagex laid out the complete package of proposals, everything they planned to remove, everything they planned to change, and that meant players could see exactly what they were approving. Now, you don't build a voting system in this way for democracy, right? You don't do a vote that you can't say no to because you want to be democratic. You do something like this to build consensus. When you vote yes, you're not signing a contract or anything, but you do have a little bit of buy-in. You've taken some real material action for making these changes, and that will mean people will...
The idea of this vote, there was only one vote of yes, is because the idea is they want to see how many people of the people that play our game want this. Because if it goes boom to 100,000, that's a lot of people that actively went out of their way to vote. And that's what you don't realize is the people that didn't act that want it gone are massively more than that. So they figured if you get 100,000 votes of active users, the passive users probably think the same.
Feel ownership,
which is usually right.
Ownership
the way you
matters,
do
because
analytics
every
and
player
stuff.
who voted will now want to see these changes succeed. It means they're invested in the outcome. But it's also a practical thing, because Jagex had already ran the experiments, already gathered the data. This vote was essentially rubber stamping decisions already made at a production level. So, it was smart marketing and a practical necessity, and also something that should sound familiar. Jagex ran the same playbook in 2013, the same vote structure, the same design. That time, well, they got 449,351 votes to launch old school RuneScape. It was kind of framed like crowdfunding, making it a big campaign. Different vote thresholds unlocked more dev resources and commitments.
Wait,
they did fall 50,000 short of the final goal, so they split the difference. And this time, they needed 100,000 votes to proceed. But of course, every vote beyond that just makes the signal bigger to Jagex of how many resources
I wouldn't be
they should
surprised if
commit
it
and how
got like
fast
400,000 or
they should
500,000.
deliver. And if you care about those things being delivered, the fact that they hit 100,000 in just 24 hours is damn good news.
That's
It may also be
that means a lot of people wanted it gone.
what the hell did people actually vote for? Let's get into Jagex's proposal. First, the complete removal of Treasure Hunter, which was their loot box-like system that required keys for random rewards. And as the CEO Bellamy put it,
Our approach to MTX has slowly eroded the integrity of RuneScape. The most egregious elements of our MTX offering are those which enable players to skip core gameplay, missing much of what makes RuneScape special.
yeah, this stuff was actually materially impacting gameplay. So now, that whole thing is gone. Second, the removal of 225 pay-to-win items. Basically, anything that improves XP gains, anything that skips core gameplay, anything that lets you buy progress. That's all gone. As for what survives, well, only cosmetics and limited bonus XP. Now, those cosmetics will change based on the experiments, but the good news is, they're probably not going to be extreme. Jagex say their goal is to make them feel, quote, grounded and always true to the visual identity of Gielinor, which means no immersion-breaking microtransaction items.
Which I think every game should do. Like, you should not be breaking your immersion for the sake of money, because all you're doing is pushing people away.
And I'm happy to say that is quite the theme in this year's news
Immersion's
cycle,
like
and
a super
very
important
welcome
part
one,
of
because it's been a rot
gaming.
in the IPs that we love. Now, the bonus XP survives in a way that Jagex calls limited and healthy, and will still require actual gameplay, where it's essentially capped per skill. And here's why it survived. 54% of surveyed players actually wanted to keep some sort of progression-friendly option. Okay, third then, a year-long integrity roadmap. Yeah, an integrity roadmap. Not something we usually hear of. Now, this is separate from content updates, and it's focused on fixing UI, onboarding, and XP progression. All good stuff, and all non-microtransaction related problems that were making the game harder to enjoy. Fourth then, and this is a huge one, optional cosmetic toggles, where players will eventually be able to disable certain visual customizations they don't like. Imagine jumping into a Call of Duty lobby and saying, I want this to feel like it's a military-inspired game and not some sort of bizarre sci-fi brand thing. Kinda crazy. I'm sure it's something that Activision would like to sell you. Anyway, the framing does matter here because all of these changes happen alongside content updates, meaning that nobody in theory loses out. And that's big, because often content is the main casualty of big pivots like this in live services. An obvious example being Helldivers. It had to trade content for making performance and balance improvements. Jagex, though, are committing to both, and I think there's an obvious reason why. A shitload of money is on the line. We will see reduced revenue from microtransactions, and we have total support to take that hit. That's a quote from Jagex. It's from their head of community, and it is brutally honest. They say overtly they're choosing trust over immediate profit. That is what you love to hear, and if you look at the numbers, it does actually make sense. You see, microtransaction revenue is already down 5 million in 2024, only making up 23 million in total, which is a hell of a lot less than their subscription revenue of 119 million. So, microtransactions were just a fifth of subscription income, but they were so distasteful, they were damaging subscription income.
They were damaging the big numbers.
What's clear is that subscriptions are RuneScape's lifeblood. And with those numbers in mind, this actually does not look like an insane gamble. Yes, it is large, and it's not guaranteed to work, but if big results are the goal, then I think this is a sane gamble. And it's also the same model.
We might go to RuneScape once they finish getting all this stuff
Focus
done.
on subscriptions, and happy customers make cosmetics optional, not predatory. And honestly, there's nothing better from a game designer's perspective.
We might.
Because when
I
a
haven't
sub fee
really
is
fully
being paid for a
decided.
live service game,
That and Amumu
then the
says not to do it.
incentives of the player and the developer are aligned, as opposed to the oppositional bullshit of ramming the microtransactions down our throats. Now, the promise here is simple, quote, an era-defining shift for RuneScape, where achievements are based on merit, not spending. So what it is a long-term play that requires nerve, and perhaps more importantly, requires their venture capital owners to actually be patient whilst the revenues temporarily.
Yeah, like, the venture capital owners basically are being told, hey, this will, in the long run, this is a long run goal. Yeah, there's going to be a big decrease in the microtransaction side. But in the long run, the subscription will go up and potentially the microtransaction will go up because it's not as intrusive. Which, that's literally true. Like, the less intrusive it is, the more people are willing to implement with it. Like, interact with it. Because they're like, oh, okay. Let me look at them. Because people like to support a product they love. But if you keep shoving something in someone's face and say, buy, 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 you're not going to get a lot of people. Because people are going to get annoyed. People are going to leave. People are going to ignore it. Like, a good reference is the game I play, AFK Arena, is slowly doing that. Well, actually, Duel Links is a better description because all it does is shove its microtransactions at you. At the start, when you start up the game. Start the game, pop up, pop up, pop up, pop up, pop up. And I'm like, close, 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 close. I don't want to see it. Stop it. You did a good thing by bringing some of the old characters. Now, bring all of them. Like, bring my Guardian boy. Give him some Guardian cool skills. Bring, the other, like, Orichalcum characters. Bring back Exodia boy. I mean, Archangel Zarato's boy. Because I didn't get to get him. I didn't realize he was even out. Because I had deleted it. And then I found out that they brought back... they brought in the cool Yugi with the chain and the black wife beater and the vagabond Seto with his, like, coat and everything. I had to go back and I got them. I got both of them. I summoned Dragon Master Knight with the new ability that Yugi has. Oh, beautiful.
So, it's a good bet, but it's one that hinges on one question. How many voters are current subscribers versus lapsed players? Because current players being happy is a good thing, but Jagex will need to get those lapsed players back, and ideally subscribing. Now, the vote ends November 12th. Anyone with a Jagex account can still participate, and if this works, RuneScape will become the anti-microtransaction haven. I guess a subscription-focused alternative, something that is choosing healthy profit with their players over just gouging out as much money as is humanly possible, as quick as is possible. And I think, as an example, for the whole industry, that would be amazing. It would be something for us to all rally around. But if it doesn't, if the subscription growth doesn't offset the losses, well, that is when we'll find out how much, quote, total support from their venture capital owners actually means. Because what happens when they see revenue drop? When quarterly targets get missed. It could be quite bad, though there are at least a few reasons to suspect their new owners may not be the worst in the world. They actually seem to have a fair bit of game industry experience now brought in. They've done things with Take-Two, and, well, they even slurped up Kerbal Space Program 2. Maybe they'll try and fix it up. I don't exactly know. As for this,
if they fix that up, they'll get a lot of
single principle.
Positive
spend more and play more than frustrated players.
Support.
And thus far, Over 100,000 people have just said that they agree. Now, we'll just have to see if they are
That was
right.
Bellular,
And I'll tell you what
guys.
the story is. It's the opposite.
I wanted to
of the
watch this one
bullshit
'cause
shenanigans covered in
I
this
wanted
next
to
story,
see
where, well, Snoop Dogg
where we were
slop
looking
is
at.
the future of Amazon
yeah.
gaming, it seems. That's all
Amazon
happening in the world.
decided, let's do AI swap instead. That was smart. Alrighty, guys, come on.